There's definitely a change in the tropical weather we've been experiencing over the last couple of months. It's the coolest it's been for quite a while actually. It's quite a nice change in the short term. I hope it doesn't last too long, but yeah, couldn't be more different than this time yesterday. There's so much that you start to realise if you just go through things and live and feel them properly. I've talked a lot about people, myself included, needing to learn to listen to other people as opposed to always offering our version of how we would deal with their innermost trauma and anxiety and depression and everything. We understand so many basic concepts in life, mechanically, biologically, all of it requires certain things that we understand. See, a wonder like the space shuttle in its day needed a completely level, flatbed launch pad. It needed to be very, very secure in its connection to the Earth to safely leave this planet's atmosphere. And by accepting people who need acceptance as opposed to advice is one of the biggest revelations of my life. You know, 10-15 years ago I used to really think that anybody who came across me and my wordiness was blessed. Genuinely felt that. I couldn't feel more embarrassed of that reality now when I look back on it. I remember getting into a relationship with somebody who was extremely troubled. And one of the initial connections that we made was that poor woman mistook my wordiness and my ability to be a bit of a sort of whiz at appearing to have empathy on subjects I can speak deeply about, when in point of fact it's just almost like the power of a savant, you know. Just for some reason I just am able to bluff my way through certain things. It seems like I've got empathy on subjects I know more or less nothing about, but can speak at lengths about them. And she really did suffer. She had a physical ailment as well as an emotional one. The physical one was hidden. It was one of those classic things where so many people have made assumptions about her in life because she was very fit and very, very good at yoga. And her problem was so hidden that people, you do all that bending and stretching. How can you ever say that you've got physical disabilities or problems? So well hidden in some people, it really is. And it's like depression, isn't it? It's completely hidden. You get me and a clone of me next to me. One could be perfectly okay, the other in a broken mess like me, you know. And I can remember months into this relationship, we were sitting together at about 1 in the afternoon. I remember it was a really hot June afternoon. And we were just doing what you do, saying what you say, having an average afternoon, and she just burst into tears. And I said, "Are you okay? You know, what's troubling you?" And she said, "Just everything and nothing. You know, my depression just gets the better of me some days." And I thought, what are you talking about? I thought, what, you've got the Dave in your life. Dave arrived in March. It's now June. What's this depression you speak of? What are you talking about? Yes, not what I said, but it's what I felt. I felt absolutely mortally offended. All about me. You know, I've talked about narcissism. There you go. That's why I always warn people not to trust me in the moment now. I don't know when my problems have overcome me. I don't know when my ability to be kind of self-serving and selfish have overtaken my logic. I like to think that I've got it in control these days. But you know, who's to say? And yeah, I was so offended. I just thought, what are you talking about? You've got me who can decode your innermost problems. I recognise your soul, to quote this woman and how she spoke about me initially. But you know, what had she meant really? Somebody who was wordy, somebody could speak at length about her issues, almost to a point where it felt like I knew her. I didn't. I've said before, it's one of those strange situations. I remember everything about everybody I've ever met who meant something to me. I don't even remember what her voice sounded like. So overcome with her beauty physically. She was a lovely person as well, don't get me wrong. You know, this is more about my shortcomings. But yeah, I really did believe you've got the Dave in your life now. Everything's okay. And I genuinely was absolutely bamboozled, just like, what? Depression? What are you talking about? I'm here. I think one of the strangest ironies of life in June 2020 is that I've come to a point in my life where I know that I wasn't really in touch with the real me for probably 40 years of my life, and it's only the last decade where I faced up to what and who I am, and sitting back and admitting who I am has broken me. You know, I was already broken, but I was holding myself together with ego. And at a point in my life where I'm probably the most eligible, laid back, and probably even good company to be with, I'm at my most reluctant to ever go near anybody on a friendly, romantic, any basis whatsoever. Because although I feel like I'm the most put together I've ever been in my desolation and shattered nature, I just know how much the ego, you know, my own and that of other people, how destructive it is and how much it can kid you and con you into believing you're a hell of a lot more sorted than you truly are. I don't know if that's a general thing, but it's certainly the case with me. I've definitely at times in the last year especially, probably to my detriment, have backed away from being too in your face with people, probably more than I needed to. I can remember with regards to my dear friend who took her own life last August, when I first met her in April, it was pretty obvious that me and her got on very well. The day that we met, well, it was after we'd met, but the day that we first shared time, it was a cool and breezy and even slightly rainy April morning, and we sat outside and talked to each other for 3 hours straight, and it was obvious that we had a bond that you can't buy, steal or borrow. And still I was reluctant, even in light of her having met my daughter, and the policy instantly was, my door is open, your daughter is welcome with me anytime. She, to all intents and purposes, was like a stepmother to my daughter between April and August last year, April and September last year. No exaggeration. And I'm proud of the connection that they formulate between the two of them. Like I say, you can't buy, steal or borrow it. But I can remember very early on, it was a cool Sunday afternoon, and I can remember thinking it'd be so nice to invite the woman in question out for a walk with me and my daughter, just to come around the park on a Sunday, just before, you know, my daughter left for school on the Monday, and I just didn't have it in me to ask. And you know, it wasn't a situation where I used my daughter as a sort of vessel for my duties, but I knew it would be a lot more inert, and it would give a sort of image of it being a father and a daughter saying, we like you, do you want to come out for a walk? And my daughter did approach her for me, and we came out and had a beautiful walk around this park that day. But could I have asked her at that point? Not in a million years. Just didn't have it in me to be yet another person who was well out of his league, demanding time from young women. You know, it was the last view that she had of me, but you know, it was something I just couldn't do because of probably a bit of, as I say, to my detriment, probably, you know, a bit of concern that I needn't have had. You have to take my word for this, or you can dispute it, but I'm not trying to signal virtues of the white knight in my behaviour that I'm talking about from last year. I'm just being honest, and sometimes honesty requires you to talk about things that were acts that you committed to the world confidently, that weren't so savoury, and sometimes they are exercises in a bit of nobility. And you know, nobility would be a reality that existed between the two camps of not being able to just say, do you want to come out for a walk, and not being some very average woman hungry guy who's in need of just being very, very much on his own at that point in time, and discovering who he is. It's a very difficult situation in life, trying to find the balance, trying to find balance in the force, as it were, you know, between being overly cautious with how you portray yourself and wanting to just put honesty out there as opposed to virtue signalling. I think that I've done a pretty good job of tearing myself to shreds and pressing the self-destruct button as far as my reputation goes with you guys who watch this. But you know, I am very cautious of appearing to potentially signal my virtues, and it is really not on my list of things to do. I don't like being misrepresented, and I don't like being abused, which have been parts of the last year for me. But I am so confident in how I've behaved towards certain situations in the last year, and at times, you know, I may have questioned my validity and just how I've been, but you know, understanding that at a time where I probably am the most eligible I've been with regards to friendship and the like, is the time where I'm the least likely to kind of offer it without concern. To sort of leap into things with gay abandon is just something which I've realised it's not a choice anymore, it's something that I'm not capable of. And just taking it back a step or two, people need to be on a very level launch pad to get where they need to go in life. And one of the aspects of levelling my personal launch pad for the future that's yet to come is not getting into situations that kid me into thinking I'm a lot more healed than I truly am. And that's what friendship and relationships would do, and misguided recommendations as to how someone else's way of dealing with things might be suitable for me just doesn't work. I just want people to be well, I want people to be happy, I want me to be happy, I want to be the best possible version of myself, especially for my daughter. And it's not always easy, but I just want to encourage people to give people to be a little brick in the launch pad of their kind of ability to go into the next phase of their life feeling like they've got people who allow them to just be what and who they are, be as I say, a brick in the solid foundations of the launch pad that we all need to get onto the next phase of life when we've been damaged and broken. You know, whether that damage and breakage has come from the outside or the inside is irrelevant. But if you've got the right ones around you and you've let the right ones in, you can feel that they're part of your launch pad, as opposed to somebody who's trying to put you on the launch pad that suited them. But the specifications of those individual launch pads are so specific to the individual that wants to go into their own personal stratosphere, that anyone else's launch pad is just going to send you careering off into space and potentially just doing what the Challenger space shuttle did in 86. Things weren't right with that launch. The foundations weren't solid, and I was about 50 seconds into that literal journey to space, things exploded. And unless our launch pad is of our own creation and checked and supported by those who claim to love us, none of our launches are going to be trustworthy. God bless. Lots of love.